With such terrible acts as the Parkland shooting happening with more frequency in recent years, what concrete legislative steps would you promote as president in order to ensure the safety of the United States, as well as protecting Second Amendment rights?
Yes. Well, as a parent, I can only imagine what children are experiencing when they go to school and actually have to worry about doing drills for school shootings. And I was horrified, like many other Americans, with the Parkland shooting and the other shootings, particularly in schools around the country, but also in public areas. So I am pro-gun safety. I think that we should treat guns in a very similar way to the way we treat motor vehicles, where you have to get licensed and test because vehicles can kill people. And firearms do the same thing. And so we should be having federal background checks around mental illness and criminal records and domestic violence and other background elements that would make it problematic for someone to have access to a gun. Now, it's going to be very, very difficult to come to agreement because many Americans feel very strongly about this on both sides. So in parallel to this, I would invest in a massive mental health initiative, because if we can help get mental health resources into the hands of more Americans, we can address some of these incidents of gun violence before they happen. My brother is a psychology professor, and I know that we can do much, much more. We have a mental health crisis in this country, and we need to rise to the challenge and address it.
Digging into your gun safety plan just a little bit more, you mentioned background checks. I know you want people to have safety classes. It would require a gun lock or a trigger lock purchases among these different tiers in order to get that license. You know, many gun advocates will note that, sure, people who are law-abiding citizens would follow through, but maybe not criminals. How would you address that?
Yeah, and this is one of the central challenges. There are over 300 million firearms in this country, the vast majority of which are held by law-abiding Americans. We're the most heavily armed society in the history of the world, and any laws you pass are going to be obviously much more adhered to by Americans who follow the law than criminals. And so this is one of the points of contention that makes agreement very, very hard to come to. But I'm convinced that there's a consensus around common sense gun legislation that responsible gun owners and people who are gun safety advocates can agree on.
Okay, let's get right back to our audience questions with Zakiya Jones. She's a student at Trinity Washington University, originally from Ohio. Go ahead, Zakiya.